But let us jump right in. So, we recently had a very exciting moment where we thought we were breaking out of our downtrend, but that didn't work out, and that was sad. But let's see what we can possibly do. So first of all, I'm going to draw this trend in again. And so roughly, I don't know, we kind of broke past it, but we couldn't hold it. So I think that this is a pretty good estimate. Somewhere, I don't know, somewhere over here. It's loose. It's just this general line that's important here. And so we tested it once here up at 11.6. We rejected, and then we came back and we retested it again last night, and we were rejected again. And so I'm going to posit you with why I think that we still have a good chance of bouncing here and breaking out again. The first one I'll give is the easiest one to understand, which is down here. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard a lot about this head and shoulders here that people were very excited about, where we have this left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder here, right? And so people like to label that one, and people thought that we were going to break out here, but it turns out that we actually had another little bounce here. So we bounced off of it one more time before actually breaking out. So what I think might be happening is a larger time frame thing, a larger time frame repetition of that exact same pattern. So if we actually look at it, and for the sake of science, we'll do it in a parallel channel. So I'm going to take this line and extend it a little bit longer, right? And so if we go like this and we draw a parallel channel to this, we'll find that here is roughly the neckline for a larger time frame inverse head and shoulders pattern, parallel to this one, which makes me think that it'll actually be more likely to play out. So what we have here is we have let me pull up this. We have possibly, here's our left shoulder. It could be, it could be any number of things in here. Here's our head, up to our right shoulder here, and then, so what do we think's gonna happen here? Well, I'm gonna change the color of this actually, so we can see the smaller time frame one. And then I'll bring this one to the front. Okay, so what I think is going to happen is that, so we have our left shoulder, our head, and our right shoulder, similar to this left shoulder, head, and right shoulder, and then we have this extra little bounce right here, right? And so I see us doing almost the exact same thing right here. Where we have this extra little bounce right here. So I think that after this, we'll see our breakout of the trend resistance. So that's the easier explanation of why I think that we're going up from here. And I hope that's pretty clear as to why. So yeah, so there's that one. And then I'm going to do another explanation, and this explanation involves Elliott waves, which are personally my favorite form of technical analysis. And so as you can see, I have the Elliott waves. This is not right, but for the most part, the Elliott waves listed out here. But what's important is we're looking at this. We found our bottom, and so we started our next motive wave. And so this whole thing on the larger time frame, right, would be a 1, and then we'll have a retracement 2, and then the 3, 4, 5, etc., right? So we're starting our third motive wave. And so what does that look like if we go down into smaller time frames? Because if you know how Elliott waves work, you'll know that you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then inside of each one of these motive waves, you have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it going down ad infinitum into whatever smallest time frame you can possibly manage. So in here, after we hit this top, after you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 motive wave, right? So after you have a motive wave, so after this happens, which in this case was this going from 6K up to 11,600, that's our first motive wave. After that, you have a correction, and so that correction normally takes the form of an A, B, C, but sometimes there's more complex patterns where you will see this combo of W, X, Y, X, Z. And so that, I believe, is what has happened here. And so you'll see inside of this you have an A, B, C, and then our W, X, Y, Z start. So each one of these is made up of, so WX, there's our first failure, and then we go down to here, Y, and then we fail again, and then we go to Z. So inside of each one of these X to Y and X to Z, we'll have another A, B, C correction. So in this case, we can see an A, B, a C, and then in this X to Z, we can also see an A, B, C, right? So here at this point, I think that our correction is done. And so at this point, we've started our next motive wave. And so how do I see that playing out? Well, let's actually go to a shorter time frame. We'll go to the 1 hour. And so here, I think that if this is our longer time frame 1, right? So we'll have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inside of this 1, we will see, obviously, a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 5. Or maybe, this could be the 3. Either way, the waves work out. And then so inside of this 1 to 2 here, we also need a correction. I'm actually going to move the waves here so it gets a little less cluttered. So then inside of here, we need an ABC correction, right? And so inside of here, we can see an ABC, right? And so at this point, I'm convinced that we have found our bottom around here at $10,200-ish. And so if we go back up to a higher 4-hour time frame, and we look, we can see that we have a confluence of our moving averages right around this area where we're seeing this green doji candle start to form. And so that's the 200 EMA, the 55, the 21, and do I only have? Oh, I only have 3, I guess. So the 255 and 21 are all pretty much sitting right here where we found the support. And if we go ahead and draw our, I'm going to remove some of these Elliott waves now, so it's a little bit less cluttered. If we draw a Fibonacci retracement of this entire first leg, right? So we go from the top to the bottom, we see that this is roughly a retracement to the 0.5 fib level, which is a strong retracement as far as these things go. And so if we wanted to, go down here and look at what was going on here, because inside of, remember when I was talking about this head and shoulders, that was playing out here, right? So if we want to say, well, look, this is the first leg of this Elliott wave, right? And if we come in here, we can count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll actually go and show the wave here, right? So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so if this is the exact same thing occurring on the larger time frame where we see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whoops, where this fifth wave breaks, where this third wave, sorry, breaks out of the trend resistance, that's exactly what we saw here. This 1, 2, 3, where this third wave breaks out of the trend resistance. And how far did this retrace on this bounce? Well, let's do a fib, right? We go from the top, we click on it, we go from the top to the bottom, and we see that we pretty much had a 0.5 retracement on this too. So it seems even more likely that this really is just a repetition of exactly what happened here with this head and shoulders on a longer time frame here, where we see the exact same 0.5 fib retracement before we go on to our third Elliott motive wave, or our second Elliott motive wave, or third wave in the Elliott wave pattern, and this is the one that breaks out. So yes, there you have it. I'm still bullish on Bitcoin. I think that if we fail here, then things would start to look more dire. But if we don't fail here, I think that we're likely to break out here. Then, after that, it's, how long until we're at Bitcoin equals $100,000. But if we are rejected off of this, then I have to completely rethink my TA, because my Elliott wave patterns, I actually have a great, I'm going to save this one real quick, and then I'm going to load up this right here. I have all the Elliott waves laid out here in a very fancy and messy pattern, and if this doesn't turn out to be a breakout, something in here is wrong, which is going to make me extremely depressed. But I'm pretty sure that this is right. So if we can't break out, if we can't break out, then I'm going to be very confused about exactly what the fuck happened in here. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'm going to go through some of these questions and comments now. So let's see. I think Chris had the first one. No ABC on the most recent swing. I hope that I answered that question by showing that there was an ABC right here, if that's what you mean by the most recent swing. Could you explain the argument? Okay, honestly, I think it's too soon for a breakout. We head to 8K again, retest it, and see what the market decides. 8K. 8K is a kind of, all right, so 8K is, I'd say, I guess this support-ish right around here, 79. If we draw a fib retracement of this motive wave here, it doesn't even lie really on maybe 8100, because we see the 0.382 on 8100. I mean, the logic there is that there isn't enough momentum right now, there isn't enough volume, and it needs to correct a little bit more, but it's a totally valid argument. It just doesn't line up with my TA, and I love Elliott waves, and I've found a lot of success with the Elliott waves, and so I'm more inclined to believe that something like this is what's going on rather than a larger correction, because the way I thought about this particular double, what is it called again? It's the Elliott triple combo wave, this correction right here that happened, and just the way the waves worked out, I really couldn't find another way for it to be counted, and this is as far as it can go. So if it goes down more, and maybe people are thinking that like this is somehow an A, this is a B, and then we'll see a C further down, I guess at you were saying 8 right here. I'd have to completely recount my waves and figure out what I did wrong there. But if this is possible, then sure, it's possible. But let's see. Let's keep going. What's the reason you use the 55 and 21 instead of the 50 and 20? Really, it's a matter of personal preference. It completely depends on what you're doing. There is a reason that I like to do it specifically with those numbers, because those are Fibonacci numbers. And so if you know how the Fibonacci sequence goes, you'll know that here, actually, I can pull it up. Fib sequence. You'll see that, well, so 21 is here, but then 21 plus 34, which would be the next number in the sequence, is 55. And so, I just like seeing how the Fibonacci plays so much of a huge role in the price patterns already. I think that it would be stupid to not assume that it plays a role in the moving averages as well. So that's why I like to use 21 and 55. So as far as you shitting on the way I draw the Fibonacci levels, if I'm projecting that things are going to go up, right, then I start at the top and go to the bottom, because then you have your projections where you have the 1.618, etc., and so you can make projections on how far it's going to go up. If you're projecting things to go down further, then you do it the opposite way. Doesn't matter either way, because the 0.236 is the exact same thing as the 0.786. It's just, yeah. It's just different decimal. I have some food for thought on the bearish scenario. I want wave 2 finishing. Okay, that's not a question. It's just a comment. When would you buy in personally? If you haven't bought in already, you want to buy in when you see a breakout of this trend line with volume. So I'd say if we can break above, the top that we made here recently, so 11K with a nice fat volume candle. So we want to see something, like this maybe. I mean, ideally we would see even something like this. That would be huge. But this is like the third highest volume candle Bitcoin's ever had in its history. So I mean, I'm not expecting something like that, but nice volume would be, seeing something like this or this or this would be nice. No, don't worry about it. Get a crypt. That's I wasn't really mad. Wave C bottom 6K. Yeah, I mean, so the Elliott waves can form in a number of different ways, and at any given time, there's often more than one correct interpretations. So really, you have to make the Elliott waves work for you, and you can't just use Elliott wave theory to make your price predictions. You have to look at other factors like the moving averages. You can see here I have an Ichimoku cloud pulled up. As you can see, in this case, we broke out past this, past the red cloud, and so it turned green. And so right now we're in this green cloud, which acts as a support in a general sense. Particularly this span right here, which is 8,900. I don't see us going down and retesting this, but so Ichimoku is a great thing to look at. If you're looking at like volatility trading, you can look at the Bollinger Bands. We can see that we're sitting right in the middle, so obviously some move up is probably going to happen soon. Because that's exactly what the moving averages are. It's Bollinger Bands. So there's that. And then there's other things I like to look at. But it all plays into whether or not they confirm my Elliott wave, pretty much. So, what's the price goal if we make it past the upcoming rejection line? Well, that's a pretty simple question to answer. So the way you make your projections for a wave 2 or for a second motive wave of this, so right, if we have this as our first motive wave, and then we're going to have a second motive wave up here, right? So how do we project how high that's going to go? Well, so the second motive wave is often the longest wave, never the shortest wave. And so if we want to assume that it's going to at least be as long as the first motive wave, we can draw a one-to-one retracement. But normally it will be longer, and especially in terms of Bitcoin, where it likes to go on these huge bull runs. I mean, you can see here where we have this massive third wave and fifth wave. You know, it likes to go way past the one-to-one retracements. But if we're just going to go off of that, if we want to be super conservative, so we draw from the bottom to the top, swing back low again. And so a one-to-one retracement would be a mere 15K. But assuming that we start breaking out past this, there's just going to be huge amounts of FOMO, I anticipate. And so, I mean, we could see the 18K. This motive wave could, you know, even this motive wave could even break out past 20K. But you know, the most conservative estimate would be around 15K here. So yeah, I'm sorry this chart is cluttered as all hell right now, but that's the way TA works. If your charts aren't ugly, you aren't doing your TA right. You know, once you start presenting it to people in just a picture format, you can probably clean it up. But unless you're looking at all these different options, you're doing it wrong. Well, awesome. I do offer personal training. If you, I'll have private lessons. If you look on my Twitter page, my pinned post is regarding those. So if that's something that you're interested in, go check out that. Other than that, it seems like I answered all the questions, so thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to me here on YouTube, be sure to do that so you can get all the updates that I post here. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, be sure to follow me on Twitter because I post a lot of technical analysis there of other things other than Bitcoin. I'll be doing a lot more once alt season comes and we do see this breakout. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys